Are you there?
We're just over a week away from the 2016 season opener at Sunset, and 2016 is going to mean a lot of things, a lot of new rookies coming into different divisions, but it's also going to mean the departing of probably our most famous driver, the most recognized name on the Sunset Speedway roster. It's the swan song for the Hall of Famer, Mr. Saturday Night, Stompin' Tom Walters, and I've pulled some strings. I've massaged it, and I've got him on the phone here. I know he's busy, but Tom, thank you so much, sir, for taking the time. I know these are busy days getting ready to go practicing next weekend.
Yeah, they are. I'm just on my way home from work out in London, and got a lot of thrashing to do to get ready.
Now, your car was in the Motorama show. It looked absolutely spectacular. I mean, if you got to go out in 2016, I guess making one last run at another Best Appearing award is not a bad way to do it.
No, not at all. Don at Night Works does a hell of a job for us, and he makes the car look good. And yeah, we're happy. It looks really good.
Now, I have to ask, how difficult was it to make the decision that your 47th year in the sport, your 47th year in this industry, would be your last as an active duty driver? I mean, has this been something that you've kind of been working on for a couple of years now, or did it just come up over the off season?
I think it's over a couple of years. It's tougher to get sponsorship. I don't have a lot of money, and without the sponsorship, it's harder to do it each year. And I've sort of come to grips with it that if I can't do it right, there's not a lot of point in doing it. So the 47 years, that was just something that fell. We never planned it that way. We didn't even realize it until somebody else happened to mention it. But, yeah, it's just something that's been coming for a couple of years, and I'm trying to work with a couple of young kids and stuff like that. So that's what the direction I'm heading in.
Has it been a huge misunderstanding by a lot of people in the sport that your program has always been an overfunded one? Because I know having a relationship with you that wasn't the case, but did you sort of get that feeling with people that maybe didn't know you that well, that thought maybe you were working with a lot more money, a lot more in your hip pocket than you actually had?
Oh yeah, throughout my whole time that I've been doing this, I've had good sponsors on and off, but never consistent. I mean, it's always been a struggle. I actually claimed personal bankruptcy back in the early 90s because of racing, and was fortunate enough to drive a car for somebody else for a couple of years, Jimmy Ward, and got back on my feet again and started again. But took a whole different approach to it, where if I didn't have the sponsorship, I wasn't going to do it.
Now, it's incredible everything you've been able to accomplish, and when you look at how humble your beginnings were in this sport, I mean, for you to go 47 years and then exit as one of, if not the most recognizable names in short track racing in Ontario, when you look back on it, it just must feel like an incredible feat what you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, I don't dwell on it. I mean, it's hard to grasp sometimes. When I look back at the fellows that I've raced against and all the years that they've raced and never won a championship, and then I get thinking about it then and say, well, we've been pretty fortunate, and I've been with some good people that have helped us along the way as well.
Jack Nicholson's character in The Departed said, "I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me." And I feel as though that's a pretty apt quote for you, considering, you were always sort of on that cutting edge. You sort of helped push the limited late model division along. And I mean, you've been on the cusp of so many changes. You've been right at the forefront of so much in the last couple of decades. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, the All-Star was a great traveling tour when it came in. Then the Molson Challenge Cup and stuff like that. They were all great back then. You could afford it. It wasn't that expensive to buy these cars then. Mm-hmm. But today it's just cost so much to buy them and maintain them. And, not knocking the promoters, they all have to make money, but we ain't got a raise in a long time. And that finally takes its toll. I mean, the tires have probably jumped up, I'm going to say 40% in the last 2 or 3 years. That's big.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that it's always been a money game, or at least in recent memory, it's always been a money game. But other than just the tires, just everything about this sport, does it feel as though, as far as costs go, it's just hit that next level in the last 5 years, maybe? I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. Just in recent memory, it feels like the costs have really accelerated.
Yeah, I'm going to say the last 3 years with our dollar and stuff like that. I mean, you look down in the States and you can build 2 cars for what it costs to build one up here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just that much different. There's that much more available to them, and it's tough. It's really tough to have a good program. We're not looking to win. We just want to go out and have fun this year and try and finish in the top 5 every night and just have fun. That's what it's going to be about.
Now, I know that your program last year, it got off to a slower start than I'm sure you're used to, but it really felt like you were starting to hit your stride towards the end of the season. Do you feel as though you can take that momentum that you had in late August and September and transfer that right over to the springtime in 2016?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know that I should be saying, but I actually did some testing already with the car after all the changes that I've made over the winter. And the car really responded nice. I was happy with it. It's the best that it's actually felt. It feels different, and it feels better than it has. But my downfall last year, I believe, was I started working for Mike McCall, who's a great guy, but you see all the tricks of the trade, all the things other people are trying, so you think, well, I'm going to try that. If everybody's doing it, I need to do it. Well, I couldn't adapt to it, and that's where I fell back until I finally sat down with Mike and said, like, listen, where am I going wrong here? And he said, Tom, why don't you put the car back exactly the way it was when it was built? I have the sheets here. Let's do that. I did that with the last 3 races to go last year, and the car was better than it had been all year, by far.
I remember someone on your crew mentioning when we were in Victory Lane at Autumn Colors after you'd finished on the podium, and they mentioned that the setup that you guys came to Peterborough with was a relatively old school style setup as opposed to what you'd been trying all year. Absolutely
it was. It was back, I'm going to say 4 years ago when I first got the car and we won the July race at Peterborough. I actually went back to them notes because I keep notes on it every year, and went back to them notes, and them notes told us to do this, and we did it, and the car was good right off the trailer. And it was just such a pleasure to drive it again. It was just incredible.
And is that kind of the proof that everything in this sport, in some way, shape, or form, always goes in a complete circle? It's all cyclical. It's always going to be what's old is new again?
Absolutely. I mean, when Sunset had fresh asphalt, we were all running 700, 600 right rear springs. We now are all down to like 275, 300s, all back to where we used to be before it got paved. And it's just that cycle. And people do it, bring out new stuff so they can make money, and the people that sell the stuff can make money, but eventually you always seem to go back to what you had a couple of years prior to that.
It does always feel like the Mike McCalls and the Brian McDonalds and the Peter Shatanis's are always they're always trying to find that better mousetrap and engineer something better and build something better. I got to think over the course of almost 5 decades in the sport, you've probably laid your eyes on a lot of things that everyone thought was going to be a better mousetrap.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe it myself, too, that there's better stuff out there, but not everybody can afford it. And so they work with what they have, like ourselves, and we try. Last year, like I say, I got off track, and I'm hoping I got back on track and realized that I overstepped my boundaries. That's not my style of driving. It doesn't suit me. So I went back to what does suit me, and I felt so much more comfortable.
And the fact that you were able to excel really going backwards, at least as far as the timeline is concerned, is encouraging that you don't need to spend oodles of money. The guys out there that are sort of racing beyond their means, living beyond their means, you don't need to do that. Hopefully, I mean, just people looking at your success last year at the end of the year, or maybe hearing this interview, it might sort of enforce that spending pillowcases full of money is not always the best way to go.
No, not always. It depends on what suits you as far as a driver goes. There's young drivers coming up that they can't afford new cars, and they're doing a heck of a job with the older stuff that they have, and they're able to adapt to it. Would they be able to adapt to a newer car? Probably, but once you've been in the older stuff, you get accustomed to that, and the new stuff throws you a loop, and you're not sure what to do with it.
And I find that when that happens, it's very difficult for guys to find their way home, to find their way back where they were when they started. They start making these changes, and they kind of get off the beaten path, and it really, I've seen guys lose entire seasons because of that.
Oh, absolutely. Gordy Shepherd's a perfect example. I watched him last year come out at the beginning of the year, and he just dominated. I mean, he was fast. And somewhere along the line, through 3 or 4 or 5 weeks into racing, he started to go the other way. And then from what I understand is that they finally sat down, tore the car completely apart, and put it back to exactly how it was at the beginning of the year, and he became very fast again. So you try and step out of the boundaries to get faster, and sometimes you just go backwards.
Yeah, it's almost like, you get into it's like running through a corn maze, and you take a wrong turn, and then you don't know what way to go. And I mean, the Saturdays start ticking by, and next thing you know, you're in August, and you haven't won all year. You're making wild swings and spending a lot of money, and that's just sort of how these guys get off course. And I guess that's good. It's good business for McCall, and it's good business for fellas like you that work for McCall, right?
Yeah, but I'm a customer too, and that's probably what's got me into a bit of a jackpot last year, is because it was easy for me. I'm going to work on Monday morning, so I'm taking the car back out there to see what's wrong with it. And a lot of it was the driver and the stuff he was trying, and take him out, and Mike say, Tom, everything looks good, everything is good. Keep trying. Well, I couldn't adapt to it. I just could not adapt to it. And it wasn't my style, and I was so happy that at the end of the year that it came around after we went back to old school stuff, that it worked for me.
You mentioned earlier that this season is all about having fun and enjoying yourself. Is that to say that the concerns about your legacy and the impression that you're leaving on the industry, is that all sort of done and gone for you? You feel as though you've arrived and you've accomplished everything beyond your wildest dreams you were hoping to, and now you're just sort of to happy to just be a part of the show on Saturdays?
Absolutely. That's the whole objective. You hit it right on the head. My feeling for this year is to have some fun, work with young Stefan with the street stock now. Mm-hmm. He's moving up, and sort of mentor him into it, and just, we don't have to, Tom Walters does not have to win anymore. I mean, it would be great because we have the best racers in Ontario at Sunset Speedway, and it is extremely tough. There's 10 to 15 drivers that can win on any night, and it's an accomplishment to finish in the top 5. And that's how I feel about it.
You're absolutely right. Now, your driver development program, it interests me so much because I've seen both sides of you. I've seen the side of you where you're interacting with babies at the track, and you're just this warm, cuddly, awesome guy. And then I've also seen the fierce competitor side of you. So it's awesome that this development deal, you've kind of been able to find that happy medium where you're still maddeningly competitive and you got that edge to you, but you can connect with this younger generation of drivers. I mean, is this a skill set that you realized you had to be this teacher and this mentor that the younger generation wanted to go to?
Not at the beginning. More so over this winter, I started thinking and giving more thought. And at first, I wasn't going to help Matt Critical, and now I've decided through conversations with Matt and stuff like that that he really feels he really does need me to mentor him. And here's a guy that's been racing for 6-7 years, and he still wants my help to mentor, not as a crew chief or anything, but more in guidance as far as driving and talking to him on the radio while he's racing. So he convinced me that this is, I need to do this for my future because this is what I want to do, and I jumped on board with Matt again this year.
I mean, I feel like that's just maturity on Matt's part to realize that you're never gonna catch up to 47 years of experience. And the faster a young guy like that realizes that, the better he's going to be. I mean, to reach out to someone like you that's seen it all, done it all, you've been on the winning side, the losing side, and everywhere in between. And with all of that comes this knowledge that you really can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm not a great chassis guy. Like I can set my car up and all of that, but I'm more a guy that can calm the guy down and get him to take his time a little bit and not rush things and so on and so forth. But it's not so much that I'm going to say, okay, we need to change the left rear spring to make you go faster. I'm really not that guy. I can direct you in that direction. If you want to do it, we'll do it. But I'm not a hands-on type guy as far as chassis stuff goes with the Pro Late models. The Limited, yes, a little bit more, but not so much with the Pro Lates.
Is there a huge difference nowadays between the two? Because I do a lot of these interviews, and every once in a while a driver will have a theory that we're getting closer together in terms of one day maybe the two classes merging. Do you still feel as though we're pretty far apart from Ontario ever having just one style of late model?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, it's probably eventually going to happen, but it's that revolution again. Every 7 years, every 5 years, it relates around. Like if Mark decided that he wanted to go to coilovers, we'd be that much closer again. And a 10-inch tire, we'd be closer again. So each time the rule changes, it gets closer to them. How many years is that going to take? I don't know. But as long as the limiteds are as strong as they are, I don't see any need in changing anything.
Now, one change that Sunset did make this year to put them more in line with, as far as I know, virtually every other track and series in the province is no tire soaking. And for a team such as your own, where you're not working with an infinite budget, I mean, that has to just sound like a godsend to you, because from what I understand, this tire soaking budgets for some of these other teams was really starting to get out of hand towards the end of 2015.
Well, I can honestly sit here and tell you I spent $3,200 in tire soaking last year. So you walk out every week with 2 gallons in your hand, that's $200. And then you got your specials and everything else. And if you didn't do it, you weren't keeping up. It was that simple. So I was one of the people that really pressed to say, like, we got to stop doing this. First of all, it wasn't healthy. I mean, the stuff is toxic. I don't care what anybody says. You walk in somebody's trailer that's done it all week long, and you're knocked out. It's so toxic. But I think it's going to even things up a little bit closer, because there were guys that had it down pat and guys that didn't have it down so good. Where when you're not allowed to do it, everybody's on the same playing field now with the tires. You're still going to have your fast guys. That'll never change. But it will even out a lot closer, I believe.
I feel like taking tire soaking away is kind of putting the advantage back towards the teams that are more meticulous in terms of note taking. And I know that you've got that binder in your trailer, and between yourself and your wife Ann, the notes you guys make in terms of how many laps and heat cycles are on each individual tire, it's incredible. I mean, I look at it, it looks like hieroglyphs to me, but I mean, it's detailed notes so that you know every detail of what tire is on your race car. When you're soaking tires, does all that sort of fall by the wayside? Does it not matter as much to keep those type of notes?
Well, I think there was a lot of, including myself, a lot of guys being able to get extra tires and know how to change the number and stuff like that, which really created a problem. I mean, because we were all doing it. Don't get me wrong. Everybody was doing it. If you had 16 tire tickets, at the end of the year, some people still had tire tickets but had tires on every night. So they found a way around it, and hopefully Mark's got a handle on it now, and it'll make it fair for everybody. There's guys out there that can't race on used tires, and you're going to see that this year. It's going to be different. There are a couple of fellows out there that had 4 on every night, and it makes a big difference. Well, without having that 4 on, they're gonna notice it.
Now you're mentoring Stefan Semeraro in the Superstock division this year. I'm sure playing the role of that driver, coach, and mentor, you've had a chance to take a look at the Superstock roster. In your opinion, I mean, you've seen a lot of shows. You've seen this movie play out 47 different times. Could this be the best Superstock division as far as an opening day roster that we've ever had? Absolutely.
I mean, you have probably 6 or 7 rookies alone that can win. Stefan tested on Sunday. The kid was phenomenal in the Superstock as opposed to the mini stock. I was so impressed. It was like I'm walking out of there and he's turning, a couple of tenths slower first time in than guys were turning last year, the fast cars. Zardo and that. So I was so impressed with him. It was incredible. But you also have young House, yep. Jordan House, and you have Brandon McFerrin, and you have so many more new rookies, and the field seems to be larger. There's so many people that went and got new cars for this division. I believe you're probably going to have 30 to 35 cars, and what a show it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be awesome.
I can't wait. I think that feature on opening night, I mean, between the late models and the super stocks, man, it's going to be close. If you're awarding a performance of the night or a race of the night, all year long, it's going to be really hard to pick a winner between those two divisions just based solely off of how stacked they are. But for you to approach this from a mentor standpoint or even making small adjustments on the race car, is it going to be a lot easier for you to have a driver in the super stock division as opposed to the mini stock division? Because I know an old school guy like yourself, the mini stock must have felt like the other side of the moon to you.
It did. I mean, I got to thank Paul House for everything he helped me with last year because he was into the mini stock with his son and stuff like that. And if I was struggling, and which I did most nights with the mini stock, I was able to go to Paul and say, Paul, what am I doing wrong here? And he helped me out. Yeah, I was like a fish out of water with the mini stock. It was just terrible. But I'm so much more comfortable with this super street stock that he bought, and I'm hoping for good things for the kid.
Now, what would be a successful season for Stefan? Because I know that he's coming from that karting background. He's still really getting his foot wet in terms of stock car racing, and I know it's a big jump, and I think it's a bigger jump than people are willing to admit. I think a lot of kids come out of that karting background, and the expectations of them are so high, and it really is a big learning curve. So what would be a successful season for him? Where are you guys setting the bar for 2016?
I'm thinking a top 15, and so is his dad. It's about having fun for that family, too. It's not so much about the competition. I mean, his dad loves the sport. He feels it's much better than the karting. There's not as much whining, but of course he hasn't been in this division, so there's going to be a little more whining. But I just feel that their expectations aren't real high. They just want to have fun and learn and get some experience through everything, and hopefully he does this particular class for a couple of years before he steps up.
Now, with your mentorship program, are there still spots available, or are you really just trying to work with one driver per season? How does it work if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and wanted to get on board with you?
Well, I'm going to do a rental program starting next year for the late model, and I will have Stefan on board for sure, and I'll probably do Matt Critical again if he continues to race. So I'm pretty busy with all of that, and plus working 3 days a week at McCall's. That's enough for me. I mean, I'm getting up there. It's harder to get up in the morning and get out to the shop right away. Like I used to be living it. Now I'm not so much living in it.
I think people that aren't living in this sport, where they don't realize what a grind it is, because it encompasses every aspect of your life. You know, it's going all the time. It never stops. It never slows down, and it ages you and it wears you out, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I thought today, for the first time I thought about it today, I've been going to the racetrack every Saturday night for 47 years.
I mean,
that's a lot of friggin' racing.
That's a lot
of racing.
That's a lot of armbands.
Yeah, a lot of Ironmans, and not to mention the ones I go, because I'm a spectator, too. I'd love to go and watch. I mean, every chance I get, if I'm not racing, I want to go somewhere and watch racing.
That's the best part of this sport is seeing guys like yourself that not only want to compete, they also want to support the industry as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, you got to support the racetracks, or they won't be here. I mean, you got to get out every Saturday or every chance you can. Like, if we're not racing on Sunday somewhere and there's a race, and it's a late model or a street stock or something, I'm there. I'm going to go to it and watch if I haven't wrecked on Saturday night.
So, hey, from a spectator standpoint then, because I know you don't have a dog in this fight, what do you think about the Avenue Auto Parts Super Late Model Series? Is this going to be huge for Sunset in 2016 or what?
Yes. I think the 5 races with a points fund, and from what I'm hearing, like car count wise and stuff like that, and you know, people are getting interested in it. I really feel that it's going to be good for Sunset Speedway, and for that particular class, they needed a boost, and I think this is the boost they needed.
Are you crazy enough to try to pick a winner for opening night, or what? If I put you on the spot right now, who do you think takes the opener in the Super Late Model Series?
Oh, I'm going to go with JR.
Hey, that's a solid pick, man. I mean, I'm at the point now where I feel like I'm a fool to count him out or bet against him at any time in any kind of race car. You'd be silly to bet against him.
Them guys work so hard. He puts up posts. I love reading them. They work so hard at their stuff. I mean, not that they don't all, but JR is more public about it on Facebook, and it's great to have him as a friend because you can see what he's doing. But man, that's a dedicated kid, and it's so good to see the dedication that he puts into it. You know, he's the same idea, like helping the passers, his father-in-law, and all that. It's just great. It really is.
Does JR strike you as more of like an old school type of guy? Like, would he be able to have just, if we picked him up and dropped him in 1985, would he just fit right in terms of the dedication and how married he is to his program? Yeah,
he's pretty much like his dad was, really. I mean, I raced against John for a lot of years, and John was a competitor as well. Like, when he got behind the wheel, he wanted to win, and a lot of it was hard work, and he loved it. When he was in it, he loved doing it, and you can see that in JR as well. Like, JR, he can get in anything and drive it, and that's what I like about the guy.
Tom, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, man. I know you're a really busy guy. I really appreciate you spending a half an hour on the phone with me. Getting out to the Speedway this year, I know it's not easy. I know that the sponsorship doesn't come easy, but you do have some pretty dedicated partners working with you this year. Who's getting you on the track this season?
Pro 4, Sunset Speedway, Tax Time, Bakers, Nightworks. I've got Uncle Bud, and Uncle Bud is a spectator at Sunset. He drives around in that four-wheeler. He's been a friend for years. He wanted to jump on board, so I really appreciate it. And right now, that's about it. But, we're always... Oh, Wildling. Better not forget Wildling. Barry. They're also on board. So, yeah, we've had a lot of help this year. Custom Automotive has come on board. So, every little bit helps. Like, we're not out for the big money. We went to the mall and said, $750 can get your name on my car for the season. And I've got a lot more response with that than trying to knock on the door and getting 10,000 or 5,000.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, my man.
You know, it's just so much easier to It's so much easier for people out there to give you a little bit than the big company to give you, they're not interested. They're just not interested.
Well, so I sincerely appreciate your time. I appreciate your input on the divisions and the different series. I mean, I'd love to do more of these. Let's do some more of these over the course of the season and document the 47th year for the Stompin' Tom Motorsports team.
I'd love to. Thank you very much, Spencer.
All right, brother. Have a great night. There you go, folks. Stompin' Tom Walters. He's geared up and ready for April 30th. And all those drivers out there, if you're looking for a driver coach or mentor, reach out to the man. Because like I said, you cannot catch up to 47 years of experience. Get in touch with him today. He can help your program. Tom, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Spence.